I know what you may be thinking. Soap, water, you got yourself a clean car. Well, I'm here to tell you that you are wrong. Today, we're gonna show you guys that washing the car is not detailing a car. So we just finished washing this Passat, but there's still a lot of embedded contamination on the surface of the paint. Now, if you guys have ever washed a vehicle and then felt the paint afterwards and noticed that it feels rough, or maybe you just see a lot of small yellow and brown specks, that is embedded contamination, and today we're showing you guys how to remove that. So we already have the car wash out of the way, but now the next step in this detailing process is removing all the iron particles from the paintwork, and we'll be doing that by using our Decon Pro Iron Remover. Decon Pro Iron Remover is a very easy to use product. All you have to do is basically spray it directly onto the surface and just allow the acid-based product to react with all the ferrous metal sitting on the surface. It'll break it down and you'll actually see a chemical reaction which turns the liquid from clear to purple. So let's go ahead and show you guys how to do that right now. So as I said, all you have to do is grab Decon and then spray directly onto the surface. Now, a couple things to keep in mind when you actually do this on your own vehicle. You want to make sure that you're only spraying this onto smooth, clear-coated surfaces. So you can use it on paint, you use it on glass, chrome, you name it, it's gonna work out incredible. Another thing to keep in mind is we do have a gloomy day, so that's a great thing. You never wanna do this under direct sunlight because if the panel is hot, guess what? You have an acid-based product, you're just asking for trouble. So make sure that the surface is cool to the touch, make sure that you're working in a garage, or just make sure you're working on a gloomy day like how we have right now, and you won't have any problems. And then all you have to do is basically spray this throughout your entire vehicle. So I've already done that little section of the hood. I'm just gonna spray this entire hood. And then we're gonna do a little time lapse to show you guys the reaction of the Decon reacting to all the ferrous metals on the surface. All right, so it's been about 2 minutes that we've allowed Decon to sit on the surface, and just check it out. This thing is super purple, and that's how you know it's working for you. That's how you know that the acid is doing its job. It's reacting to all the ferrous metal sitting on the surface of your vehicle, and now you're ready to rinse it all off and proceed with the next step, which is, well, in this case, drying it, pulling it in, and moving on to the manual decontamination, which is with a clay bar. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss out. All right, guys, we're done chemically decontaminating the paintwork with our Decon Iron Remover, and now we're inside, and you guys may see a bunch of clay bars, clay Luber, synthetic clay blocks. Don't worry, we're gonna break it down right now. So, first and foremost, you cannot clay without proper lubrication. So right here we have both our clay Luber in the gallon size and our 16-ounce size. When it comes to lube, never skimp out on the lube. You want to make sure that the surface is always lubricated, because the last thing that you want to worry about is having to dry rub and then you're going to mar your paintwork. I'll show you guys what that looks like and what that is in just a couple seconds, but just kind of conclude with the lubricant. This is a synthetic lubricant that is designed to go with the clay bar. Now, some people may use soapy water, some people may use a quick detailer. Nothing wrong with using a quick detailer. Just keep in mind that if you use a quick detailer, make sure it's something that does not contain a wax, a sealant, or a ceramic, because what ends up happening is that stuff coats your clay bar and then it doesn't pull as great. And then another thing to keep in mind, if you're using soapy water, just make sure it's not dish soap. Please, for the love of detailing, do not use dish soap, because that's going to disintegrate the clay bar into nothingness. So lubricant is out of the way. Now we have our clay bars. So you guys may see right here we have 4 different clay bars. You may be asking, why in the heck do you have 4 different clay bars? Well, I'll tell you why. Now, the first clay bar that we have right here is our light duty clay bar. So you have a brand new car, maybe your car is well maintained, you don't need anything crazy like our heavy clay bar. Our light clay bar is going to allow you to smoothly just remove light contamination on the surface of your vehicle, whether that be on paint, glass, chrome, wheels, you name it. It's going to work out for light occasions. Now, this yellow one here is our OG clay bar, which I know it's not really too clear, but just know that our OG clay bar is a mixture between our light and our medium duty clay bar. So this is OG because this goes way back. The OG clay bar, it's between a light and a medium clay bar, which means that if you don't know where you're at in terms of which clay bar you need, this is a great starting point, because this is going to allow you to remove most types of embedded contamination on your paintwork, glass, or any of those other surfaces especially if it's your first time clay barring or if it's your first time using one of our chemical guys clay bars. Now, what happens if you have a vehicle that has more contamination, such as this Passat? Now, this Passat, I know for a fact, with my expertise and my experience, that the light clay bar or the OG clay bar is probably not going to be the one that's going to be the best fit for us for this vehicle, just because this thing is pretty bad. So in this case, for this vehicle, I'd probably end up starting with the medium clay bar, and then if need be, we'll go with the heavy clay bar. So the medium clay bar, as you can imagine, works great for more moderate types of embedded contamination. And then lastly, we have our heavy clay bar, which is basically if you have a super contaminated vehicle. If you have a car or truck or SUV, boat, we can get into it at a later time, but if you have a car or any kind of vehicle that's been sitting for a very long time, or maybe you just never have clay bar the surface of your vehicle and it feels like sandpaper when you rub on it, then the heavy clay bar is what you want. And then last but not least, we have our clay block right here. Now, the clay block is a synthetic form of clay, and let me actually pull it out the packaging so that way you guys can get a better glimpse of it. The clay block is actually a pretty cool innovation. It uses a synthetic blend of rubber and clay to create this synthetic form of clay bar. So whenever it comes to these clay bars, if you drop it on the ground, it's like gum. It picks up any kind of fine debris, twigs, branches, bugs, I don't know, whatever is lingering on the floor, it'll pick it up because it's that sticky. It's designed to pull off the embedded contamination in your paintwork. So as you can imagine, if you drop it on the ground, it's gonna pick up whatever it touches. The synthetic clay block, on the other hand, is actually washable. So let's just say you drop it on the ground, grab yourself some running water or even the clay lubricant, spray some directly onto the surface, grab a microfiber towel, and just simply wipe it clean, and you're good to go to keep clay bar in your car. Now, at this point in time, let's get into some clay bar action. So I'm gonna go ahead and mask off this hood, give you guys a nice 50-50, and then we're probably gonna start off with the medium clay bar, and then, like I said, if we have to, we'll go with the heavy clay bar. So let me go ahead and get that set up, and I'll be right back with you guys. All right, guys, so we have everything set up here. Basically, what we need is a clay luber, our medium grade clay bar, and some microfiber towels. But another thing I did want to show you guys is, even though we did that chemical decontamination with the Decon, and you guys saw a lot of those rust spots got broken down with our Decon Iron Remover, you can actually still see that there's a ton of yellow and brown specks, even black ones as well. And then another thing to keep in mind as well is all the contamination is causing the paint to feel rough. So just hear this out. If your paint sounds like that, you need a clay bar. So luckily, you're watching the right video. So right here we have our clay lubricant, and we also have our medium grade clay bar. Now when it comes to the clay bar, ours comes nicely packaged, so you can go ahead and open it up. And it actually comes already coated with 2 films of plastic. So please make sure to take them off. Don't just start using your clay bar, because it's not gonna be a good day for you. You wanna make sure that you remove this plastic sleeve on both sides. I like to kind of keep them in the packaging just because you can actually reapply them to the clay bar that you don't use. That way it doesn't get stuck inside the packaging itself. And then when it comes to using the clay bar, you never, ever, ever want to use the entire thing. Why? Well, simple. If you use this entire piece, and let's just say I magically drop it and I don't have another clay bar, guess what? You're all out of luck. You're gonna have to go buy a new clay bar, and it's very tough and inconvenient when you have to drive to the store and have to buy another clay bar just because you decided to, use the entire block. So instead, what you want to do is you want to cut yourself off a small chunk. Now, with this clay bar, believe it or not, with this clay bar is actually more than enough to do more than 20 cars. Now, you guys can see right here, I just kind of cut a quarter of it, even though it got all deformed. I'm going to grab this with my glove, and then, like I said, grab those plastic sheets once again, and then simply just put them on the piece of the clay bar that you haven't used, and then put it back inside this packaging. That way it doesn't get stuck inside. So if you need to grab more, you can grab more, and it's not a hassle. All right, so we have this little clay bar here. What you want to do at this point is you want to knead it into a patty that's easy for you to grab. So as you can imagine, it's probably not going to be the smartest idea if I spray the surface with lubricant and start clay barring like this. So instead, what you want to do is you want to just kind of ball it up into a little ball. And then you can either just, with your fingertips, just knead it out. Now, I like to kind of knead it out into a little patty about the size of 3 or 4 fingers. So in this case, you'll see right here. So I've kneaded it out, and that's enough to cover my 4 fingers right there. which is gonna allow me to have maximum coverage. So now that we have that set up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna lubricate the surface with our clay luber. So in this case, what we're gonna do, just because this area is super contaminated, I'm gonna stick to a 2x2 section. In most cases, if your car is not that bad, you can just spray half of the hood, do half of the hood, and then wipe off the excess residue. But in this case, I wanna take my time because this thing is really bad. I know that we're gonna have to glide left and right a couple times in certain different sections just because of how built up it is. And right now what we'll do is we'll spray the clay luber in this little corner of the hood. And then you can also spray some directly onto your clay bar itself. And then what you want to do now is simply glide the clay bar left and right. Now, when it comes to clay bar in your vehicle, you never want to apply too much pressure. If you have to put your back into it, if you feel like you're forcing too much pressure onto the surface, stop immediately. Because if this were a dark colored car and you're doing that, you're going to get more on your vehicle, which basically looks like you kind of sanded it, so it'll look kind of cloudy looking. You don't want that. Now, all you want to do right now is glide your clay bar left and right. So if I get my camera guy to come up close right here, right now you'll see that the clay lubricant, instead of it being nice and vibrant blue, you'll see that the liquid actually starts turning brown. And that's actually a good thing. That's actually letting you know that you're removing all the embedded contamination. So at the beginning of the video, when I told you guys, a little bit of soap and water, you wash your car, it looks great, you think your car is clean. Does that look clean to you? All that brown yuckiness, you don't want that in your paintwork. So all you have to do at this point in time is basically repeat this process, basically up until your paint feels nice and glass smooth. In some cases, on lighter color vehicles like this white one here, you can actually continue doing it until you remove all the little yellow and brown specks. So in this case, I'm just gonna go ahead and basically remove all of this embedded contamination. And I know I said, if we have to go with the heavy clay bar, we'll go with the heavy clay bar, but honestly, this thing is looking great with the medium clay bar. I don't think we actually have to go any more aggressive with the clay bar itself. So I'm just gonna stick with the medium and we'll go ahead and finish this up. But before I do, check this out. So I'll bring you guys up for a little look right here. So you see this little section right here, this is all kind of like, it has like a yellow kind of tint to it. So all this yellow tint around this area, that's all the embedded contamination that we picked up. And if I actually flip my clay bar, you can actually see this is nice and gray versus this right here, which has like a yellowish tint. And I'll actually show you guys a little bit more in depth how yellow it gets when I actually finish clay barring this entire side of the hood. So let me clay bar this entire side of the hood and I'll be right back with you guys to show you the results. All right, guys, so we just finished clay barring the right side of the hood, and if I feel the paintwork, it's nice and smooth and it does not sound rough whatsoever. If it does sound rough, in your case, if there's areas where you may have kind of, gone too fast or maybe you just didn't pay enough attention to, feel free to go back, clay bar those affected areas to ensure that everything is nice and smooth and decontaminated and you have no yellow or brown specks in your paintwork. Now, this side of the hood looks great, but I will say this right now. There's a bunch of scratches in the paintwork. Those were already there. We're just gonna say that. The scratches were already there, and one of the biggest misconceptions about clay bars is that they remove scratches. They do not. Now, clay bars are a great tool to have in preparation of removing the scratch, but they won't actually remove the scratch at all. In this case, you would actually need to polish it and or apply a glaze, which will temporarily fill in the light imperfections like the scratches and swirls, just to give your paint a better shine and a better foundation to reflect. So at this point in time, What we'll do with this vehicle is we'll continue to clay bar the rest of it, just because if you guys thought that the hood was bad, just imagine the roof and all the other areas that get affected. So on this car, this Passat, the roof is really bad, the trunk is really bad. The sides of the vehicle, surprisingly, aren't that bad at all, but that's also because a lot of the contamination doesn't really set on the sides of your vehicle, just because, you know, anything that lands on the sides, it's a vertical surface, it's just gonna roll off. In this case, it sits on these horizontal surfaces and it stays there, and it has enough time to basically embed itself on the finish. So that's why the panels like your hood, your roof, and your trunk are always gonna be the worst on your vehicle. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up this vehicle, but before we go away, I did wanna share something else with you guys, just because I feel like I kind of may have just kind of sped through it a little bit too fast. This is our synthetic clay block. Now, like I told you guys, it does have a synthetic clay sheet. It also has this nice little sponge texture, which means that it's easy for you to grab it. Now, clay block, the reason I didn't use it for this vehicle is simply because this is a maintenance tool. So keep in mind, we just clay barred this side with a clay bar itself. Now, let's say 2, 3, 4 months from now, maybe we start feeling like the paintwork, it's not as smooth as it once was when we first clayed it. You can use something like the clay block to quickly decontaminate the surface. So instead of having to, have a little piece of clay bar and having to knead it around to do the entire vehicle, you can actually use the speed and efficiency of a clay block to just quickly do your entire vehicle. I've clay blocked the car in like less than 5 minutes, so it's very quick. It's just a matter of just getting in and getting right out. So we're gonna go ahead and finish up the rest of the vehicle. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give us a huge like. If you guys want to pick up any of the clay bars that we showed on today's video, they would be in the description down below and in the pinned comment. You can also pick them up at your local detail garage store. As always, my name is Joey. This is Chemical Guys. We'll see you guys next time.